this Mavericks Celtics finals series. I know I never got a chance to give a prediction for those who were looking for that. I do predict the Mavericks to. I still like Dallas, but Boston poses a threat that like Minnesota or Oklahoma City, even though those teams are ranked high in the defensive ranks, Boston has four guys who could all guard Luka or guard Kyrie if they needed to. Right? Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Derek White, and Drew Holiday could all match up on Kyrie and make like life difficult. Timberwolves didn't have four guys. The Thunder didn't have four guys. The Clippers didn't have four guys. So this is a very different and interesting series to see how he figures this out, right? Because he also doesn't have LeBron, who kind of controls a game in a way that just nobody else is really able to control. So I'm curious. So just getting into it, Boston won the first game 107-89. There's not a whole lot to unpack here. It was a blowout. Dallas did their best to make it close. They cut it to 8 in the third quarter at 72-64, but as soon as Boston called a timeout and just basically got their bearings back under them, they went back on like a 14-0 run to get back up 22, and that was that. Biggest takeaways, Luka still had 30 points, 12 for 26 shooting. I mean, that's pretty much what's going to happen. The key there was 1 assist, right? I don't think anybody else in Dallas played particularly well. I love that Boston's matchup. They've decided, oh, no, we're going to put like Jason Tatum or somebody like that on your center, on Gafford or Lively, because they're not good one-on-one threats, right? Like they're not Kristaps, where you can put them in the post and tell them, all right, go make a play because they're smaller than you. Tatum's actually a really, really good-sized wing, and so he can guard those guys. And then they take away, and like what they're useful for is their pick and roll in the lobs. It takes that away because Boston can just switch, right? Now Tatum is on Luka or on Kyrie, and you've just switched. And again, even if you have a smaller guy, if you have a Drew Holiday on Derek Lively, you're not going to throw him the ball because that's not their game, one-on-one. So it'll be very interesting to see, okay, Dallas has to figure out a way to use their screen game to get the matchups they want. That might mean double screening. That might mean screening the screener, right, to set it up to where you're getting these switches, because Boston is a roster set up to basically just switch everything, which is exactly what makes their defense so hard because it forces you to almost have to play one-on-one basketball. You don't want to do that against Boston. So obviously Kyrie didn't shoot very well. There's a lot of length on the court. A lot of athleticism on the court, a lot of defenders on the court. But I think he'll be all right. This is not his first rodeo. What else? Stats-wise, Jaylen Brown, man, he only had 22 points and 6 rebounds. But Jaylen Brown's like staple, like his stamp on the game was so felt on both ends of the court, offensively and defensively. Picking up full court, getting steals and fast break dunks, just the energy, man. I love the tenacity in which Jaylen Brown plays with, and it seems like he plays with that every night. It doesn't seem like he has some nights where he's just like not there, It doesn't seem like he has that. I love that a lot. And then Jason Tatum is just a guy who like doesn't care. I saw an interview, he was talking about how, or maybe it wasn't an interview, maybe someone was talking about it in the game commentary, but basically when he first got in the league, he was so focused on scoring. I'm like, all right, I need to score. How can I find a way to score? And now it's just kind of like, I don't need to score. If I score 16 points, but I got 11 rebounds on 5 assists tonight, I'm cool with that. He doesn't feel like he has to go score 25, go score 30. And I think that's one of those things where, and I even fell like victim to this. I felt like, Boston seems to, they don't have just the go-to guy, which feels like something that's important. And I think that we have overblown how important it is to have everyone know who the guy is, because I think it opens up a lot more possibilities and makes things a lot more easier on everybody on your team when you just flow. So it's like pickup basketball. Like you got 5 guys and someone might get hot or whatever, but you don't have a one guy who like, okay, everything runs through him. When you play pick, no, it's just vibes. Oh, okay, you're cooking your matchup. Hey, man, kill him. All right, they're switching. All right, now you kill him. Like that's just what it feels like. And the ball's just popping and moving. And I think that everybody on Boston loves playing on that team. Everybody on Boston knows, I'll get my chance. I'll get my shots. And they all have the ultimate green light. Like they shoot a lot of contested threes. But it's clear that part of their game plan on a nightly basis is get them up, shoot them, get them up. And they do. The biggest thing, obviously, for me, it was 15-14 Dallas. Boston goes on a 3-point barrage, going on a 23-5 run. That kind of blows the game open. And that is the thing about Boston, man. And this is when they are clicking on all cylinders, and they're hitting on all cylinders, when they are making their shots, they look like the best. 60-something win team, the best team in basketball. They look unstoppable. They always do, right? The problem with Boston is not what they look like at their peak. The problem with Boston is what they look like at their low, and the fact that they don't consistently stay at that peak, right? So obviously, one, you can go cold and you can miss shots. That's one. But then they just their lack of their lack of focus, which that third quarter is everything about Boston that you don't trust, which is why you get hesitant to pick them to win in the finals, because that third quarter, they just all of a sudden they're not focused. All those threes they were making in the first quarter, in the second quarter, they're just jacking them up. They're coming down, one pass, shooting threes in people's hands in their face, missing, and now it's coming into fast breaks and layups on the other end, and that's exactly their problem. So it looks great when it's working. It looks fantastic when it's working, but then it looks absolutely horrible when it's not. And that is kind of the thing with Boston, where you're just like, can you really trust them to win final series, right? I think that, what else stood out to me? I think it's going to be a long series for Kyrie. Like I mentioned, Boston's got 4 guys. They love to just switch the pick and roll, which takes away a lot of the pick and roll action. And it just forces a lot of one-on-ones. And Luka can score 30, but can Kyrie go one-on-one all night? It felt like a lot of, okay, your turn. All right, my turn. All right, your turn. Like, it didn't feel like a lot of good offense, which is why there's a low assist total for everybody, including Luka, who only had 1. And then lastly, Al Horford. I think that, not lastly, because Chris Stapps factor was there, which is huge. But I've been saying this. I've been feeling this for the last couple of years, and I don't know why teams don't seem to see this, and maybe they do. But there's this idea when you get Al Horford switched on you. If you're Kyrie Irving, if you're Luka, you got to go attack him one-on-one. And in theory, yes. Right? He's older. He should be slower. But Al Horford, as a one-on-one defender, when he's got, again, Brown, Tatum, Derek White, and Drew Holiday behind him in help, knowing that they're going to help off of Derek Jones Jr. and help off of Derek Lively, and they're going to be in the gaps, it's hard to get by him. I don't know why teams don't just focus on incorporating him. If you want to attack Al Horford, you need to attack him on that pick and roll that you know they're going to switch. You need to come off the screen hard and immediately get into your attack bag. That's where Kyrie, don't back out to the three-point line. All right, cool, boom, boom, and we try to put a couple moves on them and just blow by them. No, because they're in the gaps. You're not going to be able to do that. You're going to have to pass, get it back. You're just wasting time. Get in the pick and roll, and as soon as you come off the screen, boom, curl, cross, whatever you need to do, and you need to attack it that way while everybody is still moving. And now you've eliminated a defender because they switched on that screen. That's how you need to attack him. But it seems like all these teams want to just go one-on-one, and he's still 6'10", and he can move his feet enough. He's a veteran, so you're not going to get him on a pump fakes and get him jumping in the air and pick up a cheap foul. None of that stuff happens. And when you do try to attack him, you never beat him enough. And what ends up happening is he ends up blocking your shot or pinning it to the backboard. You also got Derek White, who I think is the best shot blocking guard in the league. Don't hold me to that, but I'm pretty sure that I read that somewhere. His block, he blocks shots better than any other guard. And he's in help. Which, again, back to my point. So I think that if you're going to try to attack Al Horford, which I do think if you're going to attack somebody, it's got to be him. I think that there's a certain way that you have to do that. And then as far as Chris Stapps is concerned, man, that's when Chris Stapps is on, again, Chris Stapps' first game with Boston, he scored 30, right? When Chris Stapps was in New York, when he was the new kid on the block, when he was the rookie, he was called the unicorn. When Chris Stapps is just another epitome of the Boston Celtics, which is when it's on, Chris Stapps is oh man, how could you not want him? But there's a reason why it didn't work in New York, and injuries was a part of it too. There's a reason why it didn't work in Dallas with Luka, even though him and Luka, from what I saw, were real cool. And then he had a good season in Washington, but he was in Washington, right? So there's no need really to overblow this game one blowout. You know, I was texting with some friends like, yeah, I don't know why people really like it's easy to say like, oh yeah, I don't know why anybody was picking against Boston. Like they're the better team. When you're watching them rain threes, you're watching Sam Hauser catch the ball and shoot fadeaways in the corner, and it's nothing but net. Like it's easy to do that because, like I said, when Boston is hitting on all cylinders, it feels like they really are unstoppable. But let's not forget that this is exactly how it looked in Game 1 against Golden State 2 years ago. Let's not forget they won that fourth quarter 41-16, 3-point barrage, and it just felt like, oh, Golden State's not going to have anything to like any answer for these guys, right? And then they lost Game 2, obviously, and then they won Game 3, same fashion, yeah. And then Golden State found a way to hold them under 95 points the rest of the series and win 4-2, right? Similarities in that Game 1, like I'm talking about. They shot over 50%, 21 from 41 from 3. They won the fourth quarter 40-16. Like this is exactly how it looks for Boston. This is not anything new. Okay? So let's pump the brakes. Let's also not forget Dallas doesn't do a lot of winning Game 1s in the Luka era. It's very similar to LeBron, how Game 1 is always kind of like, all right, let's feel it out. Let's see how they're trying to attack us on the defensive end and on the offensive end, and then we'll adjust, and now we'll go counter. It seems like it's a lot of that. Dallas is a really good road team. They've been really good this postseason. They'd actually won 5 straight road games before losing to Boston. But we can go back in Luka's career. His first playoff appearance in 2020, they lost that series to the Clippers. He lost Game 1. 2021, and that was in the bubble. The very next year, 2021, they lost Game 1 to the Clippers. 2 years ago in their Western Conference Finals run, lost Game 1 to Utah in the first round, lost Game 1 to Phoenix in the second round, 1-7, lost Game 1 to Golden State in the conference finals. They didn't make the playoffs last year. This year, they lost Game 1 to the Clippers. They lost Game 1 to Oklahoma City. Now, and then, of course, obviously, they beat down the Timberwolves, so they were up 3-0. But point being, losing Game 1 has never been a thing where it's like, oh, God, right? Like, Luka's pretty used to losing Game 1. They're also usually the lower seed in a lot of these games, so they're also used to losing Game 1 on the road. Like, there's a lot of similarities with the way this is shaping out and the way that it always shapes out. So everybody relax. That's one game. Game 2 is Sunday night. Let's see what happens Game 2. I do think Dallas wins Game 2. So we'll see. I do want to get into, before we stop, I want to get into the Jason Kidd element of this, because Jason Kidd, man, this is a sneaky dude. Let's listen to what Jason Kidd had to say after Game 1. Let me pull it up here. After Game 1, we'll listen to what Jason Kidd had to say, and then I'll explain to you kind of why Jason Kidd is somebody who can't be trusted. So check this out.
Well, Jalen's the best player, so just looking at what he does defensively, he picked up Luka full court. He got to the free throw line. He did everything, and that's what your best player does. Just understanding. He plays both sides, defense and offense, at a high rate, and he's been doing that the whole playoffs. I mean, when you talk about the Eastern Conference MVP, and it seems like he's continued to pick up where he left off, and so he.
All right, so there was still like 15 more seconds of that, but the rest of that's not important. Okay, so I don't know exactly what the question was, but basically, hey, he's their best player. Okay, why is that important? Well, right now, when you're in the finals, one of the things that you're trying to do is find any edge. Draymond Green talks about this a lot. He talked about this on Inside the NBA when after Game 1, I think it was, and the Timberwolves were like, oh, we were just tired. right? And Draymond was like, oh, no, see, if I'm hearing you say you're tired, then I know we got you. And I know that we need to keep, attacking you, pushing on you because you're tired and you're admitting you're tired, which, just one of those things is competitive edge. So now you got to think about the fact that all we've ever heard when it comes to the downfall of these Celtics is this like Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, right? We know that Jaylen Brown sees himself as a top guy. We know that obviously Tatum does. We know that there's been a lot of noise about whether they can win together, whether one of them needs to be traded. They know it. They've talked about before how they hear that talk. Okay. You got Jaylen Brown who wins Eastern Conference MVP, even though, Jason Tatum is widely considered their best player. You know that there's been this like some of this little noise about like maybe a little bit of a rift between them. They deny it, and I don't really know if there really is, because I just think Jason Tatum's just too much of a laid back. At least he gives us too much of laid back vibes for me to feel like that's his steez. But so hey, let me go ahead and throw a little bit on there. Let me go ahead and get the conversation started that Jaylen Brown's actually the best player. Let me see if that makes Jason Tatum start to. Let's see how he plays in game 2 after that statement. Now, Tatum's going to say all the right things, right? So here's what he had to say in regards to, and I think I'm going to have to rewind this clip. Here's what he had to say in regards to Jason Kidd's comments.
Say that for
When Jason Kidd was in here, he made a point to say Jaylen Brown's the Celtics' best player, which raised some eyebrows, obviously because of your status. What's your reaction to J. Kidd saying that?
no reaction. This is a team sport, right? We understand that. We wouldn't be here if we didn't have JB on our team. And we could say that for a lot of guys, right? We've all played a part in getting to where we're at. And we understand that, people try to drive a wedge in between us, and I guess it's a smart thing to do or try to do. But we've been in this position for many of years of guys trying to divide us and say that one of us should be traded or one's better than the other. So it's not our first time at the rodeo.
So exactly what I was just saying. Jason Tatum is hip. Jason Tatum's hip to the game. He knows what time it is. Like, oh, okay, yeah. I know what you're doing. I see what you're doing. Probably, hey, kudos, a little kudos to you. That's a nice little chess move, but nah, I'm not. At least Jason Tatum, anyways. No, we're not falling for it. So, nice try. Drew Holiday though said something different, right? Because Jason Tatum's statement is, "Look, man, we are all aware we couldn't win without him, and most people believe that same thing." Drew Holiday said, "Oh well, Jason Kidd is right." Check this out.
This is the first I'm hearing it, but I mean, I don't think he's lying. I think JB he's been aggressive in every single way. He's been getting to the paint, getting to the free throw line, also making plays for other people, and then he's guarding Luka. He's guarding the best player. I've been on teams where just any team, where does your best player have such a heavy load on the offensive end, and then just as equal heavy load on the defensive end? That's hard to do. That's hard to do, especially against somebody like Luka.
So there you go. So now Drew Holiday is saying, yeah, I mean, he's right. He's playing on both ends of the floor. Yada, yada, yada. I mean, you heard the clip. So now you've got Jason Kidd sparking the conversation that now all the Celtics are having to answer to, because they're going to be asked about it. And it's just, you got to remember, like, Jason Kidd is the same guy who, when he was in the league as a point guard, he saw the opposing team's coach, because this happens. Like, they have to stay in a certain area. And, you're coaching and you're pointing and sometimes you step and you're outside of the boundary. They don't typically get called, like, a lot for that because you understand, like, they're not focused on where they're standing. They're focused on, da-da-da-da. In the NFL, they literally have guys whose job it is to pull the coach back into the area so that he's not all the way on the field or all the way down the sideline. Like, it's their job to pull him and keep him in that area because so that he doesn't have to focus on that. There's too much for him to already have to focus on. It happens. You're standing there, you're coaching, you're not supposed to be on the court. Jason Kidd is the point guard who noticed, that team's coach is on the court, I'm going to go haul ass down the court with the ball and bump into him so that we can get a technical foul because he's not supposed to be on the court. 3 points. I'm pretty sure it was also Jason Kidd. There was a fan or somebody, and he bumped into them to spill the water on the court, like spill their drink on the court so that they had to take time to clean it up so they could get a free timeout. Like that is Jason Kidd. So don't put it past him that he might decide, oh yeah, like let me see if I can throw a little bit of, yada 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 out here to get the conversation going. Like that is, I know it might sound kind of galaxy brain, but obviously Jason Tatum, he peeps game, and if you know anything about Jason Kidd and just like from the just his history, you'd probably be like, I see what you're doing there, Jason Kidd. I see what you're doing. But this is what the playoffs is about, right? It's just, hey, trying to find these little things here, and this is why I love this so much, because you might not notice this if you're not really paying much attention. Jason Kidd, man, that's a good little move. Good little move. I like it. I like it. So anyway, super excited for game 2 Sunday night. I do got Dallas. I still think Dallas wins this series. I had them in 6. I still think they win game 2. They probably split at home, but then win game 5 and win game 6. That's kind of the way I feel it goes. But we'll see how it goes, man.